Then, September 11th, 2001. It was the 12th anniversary of Richard's death. I was lighting candles in his memory when I heard of the terrorist attacks. Already in a place of mourning, I was stunned and bereft, like the rest of us. However, it was during the day of remembrance on the 14th that I truly had an epiphany. I experienced a sense of love and oneness that I had never known before. Much like the love Paul speaks to in Romans, to love one another with mutual affection, Christ's message of love. The interfaith ceremony at the Rose Quarter included speakers from all faith traditions, Jewish, Christian, Islamic, Buddhist, and those of our indigenous brothers and sisters. As the poet and mystic Rumi wrote, the broken heart is the doorway to God. It was extremely powerful, and on my way home on the Max that night, I had a vision that became this painting. You can see along the bottom the skyline of New York City and vaguely the Twin Towers, the hands coming up out of the dust to hold the earth with love. One afternoon, as I was lying on the sofa, I had finished the painting and it was on the floor, leaning against the coffee table. As the sun streamed into the room, the heart in the center started to appear to be beating. I know this sounds crazy. I didn't believe it myself. I moved around the painting, looking from every angle, saying, this can't be happening. Yeah. My rational mind just didn't think it was possible. It was just the light, I told myself. I came to believe it was an encounter with the mystery. I felt the souls buried within the rubble of the Twin Towers were somehow communicating with me through the painting. This was my first mystical experience. In The Mystic Heart, Brother Wayne Teasdale writes, in mystical experiences, we are touched by something ultimate, by a mystery that takes us to transcendental realms, perhaps to the sphere of the divine itself, the place of the totality, the source. This encounter with the mystery also felt like a message to me, to commit myself to my art, to healing, and a deeper spiritual vision. This was going to be a leap of faith for me. I had been making art since I was a child and did undergraduate work in fine art, but like most struggling artists, I fell into graphic design after college and over the years had a very successful and lucrative career. I was earning a lot of money during the dot-com boom, but stressed out, working 60 hours a week, and had little time for life, let alone a spiritual vision. In what little free time I did have, I was making some art and doing volunteer work with grieving children. In many ways, it was a gift that the dot-com bubble burst and my design business came to a screeching halt. I don't know how I would have gotten off that speeding train otherwise. By the time of this mystical experience, I had the financial resources to follow the artistic and spiritual path I was now being called to. I didn't know where this path was going to lead me. I was simply going to listen to my inner voice and follow the threads wherever they would lead. To borrow from Thoreau, I was going to go confidently in the direction of my dreams, live the life I had imagined. This path first led me to environmentalist Joanna Macy. She's a Buddhist scholar, world-renowned in her work in serving the healing of our world. Long-term activist, she has worked tirelessly for decades on behalf of the living earth and all her creatures. It was during a 10-day training with her that coincided with the first anniversary of the attacks and the 13th anniversary of my brother's death that I experienced a spiritual homecoming. To quote Macy, if we won't feel pain, we won't feel much either. Both loves and losses are less intense, the sky less vivid, pleasures muted. For several days, we went deep into our grief and despair, opening our hearts to the pain and suffering of our world. With hearts broken wide open, we were then sent off into the forest alone for 8 hours to find wisdom and support from the natural world. It was on a rock by a creek that I had what I believe was my second mystical experience. The bee that landed on my pencil while I was drawing, the sound of the water, the smell of the trees, the butterflies dancing in the wind. Everything was suddenly vibrantly alive. I was alive. and in touch with the sensuous world around me. I was touched by the ultimate, the holiness of the natural world. I no longer saw God above, but woven through the fabric of all creation. I felt a sense of oneness that has guided me ever since. It was a profound homecoming, an awakening, and I returned home committed to serving the healing of our world. Continuing to follow the threads of this calling, I founded Sacred Art Studio in 2003 and completed graduate studies in the world's spiritual traditions at Marylhurst University. It was during my studies there that I found healing around my relationship to God and Christianity. I didn't return to that particular faith tradition, but I came to appreciate and continue to appreciate Jesus and the teachings of love and service. I also discovered the wisdom woven throughout all our religious traditions. And in 2006, I journeyed to Peru on a pilgrimage of my own to learn the ancient ways of our indigenous ancestors through ceremony and ritual. I know in my heart that we are all one. I received this inner knowing through the mystical experiences I've shared with you here today. And I have come to believe that no matter who we choose to worship, Yahweh, Christ, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, or a tree, we are all interconnected and we are all of this glorious earth. Everything is holy and the earth is worthy of our reverence and our care. Our lives, our very survival depends on our being good stewards of this creation. My art has evolved over the years, and I draw inspiration from the holy wells of all our faith traditions and from our earth-honoring ancestors. My process is one of devotion, and I dedicate my work to the healing and awakening of all beings. This is my prayer. I've reclaimed prayer for myself through the sacred act of creating art. Silence, contemplation, the paintbrush gliding across the canvas, and gratitude for the gifts that have been bestowed upon me in this life. All acts of prayer, praise. I'm in the process of creating 3 large panels that draw from the garden narrative. The overarching theme being the garden is right here, right now. The center mandala, what I call the creation illumination, is complete, and I'm working on the outside panels, one with Adam and one with Eve. To open hearts, that's my hope, to raise awareness of endangered species, and to raise money for the World Wildlife Fund. Like our grief, I believe that art and beauty can also open our hearts to the divine, to God, to what is possible, and to love. I'd like to share with you the word from today, from spiritual artist Alex Grey, from his book called Art Psalms. It's called Theosis. Art can transform the way we see ourselves and the world. Sacred art has always depended on this possibility. Theosis means coming closer to God by contemplation of icons. New ways of seeing lead to new ways of being. When your being is transformed, the world occurring to you transforms. A great work of art, once seen, is unforgettable. We encounter an art object and contemplate it. It remains as a trace in our memory. Our encounter may have lasted a minute or an hour, but the artwork is now alive in our minds, doing its subtle business. Art can rewire our brains, suggesting a new reality. Contemplation of a Buddha or Christ implants the possibility of our own enlightenment. Icons of a united world, a sacred planet. All are essential now to implant the possibility of saving our collective lives, reverencing our Mother Nature, God Self, the one world spirit of all plants and creatures. (9/11, 1989). 9/11, 2001. 9/11, 2011. Days of mourning, days of remembering, days of transformation. Let us weep together and be patient in our suffering. May we go forward with our hearts open to one another, to our world. May we live, as Paul wrote, peaceably with one another. In closing, I'd like to share this passage from the 12th century Sufi mystic, Ibn Arabi. My heart has been capable of every form. It is a pasture for gazelles and a convent for Christian monks, a temple for idols and a Kaaba for the pilgrims. It is a tablet of the Torah and the book of the Quran. I profess the religion of love, and whatever direction its steed may take, love is my religion and my faith. Thank you. May all beings know peace. May all beings be loved.